I just think it's fascinating that some people claim that the Bible cannot be edited. Yet you can look at the first English translation compared to the newest one, and they're completely different. The Creator wants us to follow what is told to us in Scripture. The problem with modern doctrine is that people like to only cherry pick certain verses to fit their narrative. And a lot of modern pastors have to follow certain rules when they're under the 501c3 doctrine, for example, or if they went to seminary, or even if they're following the Scofield Reference Bible. All three of these things have completely corrupted the original teachings of Scripture. If you were truly rooted in Scripture and you started to see the differences between what Scripture says and what the church does, then that's when you can slowly break away from the teachings of Easter or Ishtar, or the teachings of the false birth of the Messiah being December 25th, which is actually a day for Saturnalia, a week of Roman debauchery, and eventually human sacrifice at the end of it. Also, the entirety of the new year is based upon the goddess Janus, and that's where January comes from. All of these teachings are Roman Catholic teachings. You do realize that the Christian church, the Protestants, broke off of the Catholic Church. Just like in the books of Kings and Chronicles, when you're reading about the different kings each generation, one king does things righteously and correctly, and then his son comes into power, puts up the Ashtaroth poles, starts sacrificing his children to Molech. All this wickedness starts. And it's like every generation they go back and forth, back and forth. And so if somebody didn't snap and say, hey, we're following the wrong traditions here, we need to go back to what the Scripture says. If nobody did that, then we would have still kept following Baal and Molech. Arguably, we still did. But the argument is still the same, that if nobody looked around and said, hey, we're not following any of the feast days that the Creator told us to follow. If you think that the teachings of the Messiah tell you to not follow the feast days, show me a verse from the Gospels telling you to no longer follow the feast days of Yahweh. Show me the verse that says you must now follow Easter, you must now follow Saturnalia. Show me those verses. Because I'll show you the verses that say, these are the feasts that you, Yasharel, should do for all generations forever. Just like the Shabbat, which is a commandment. You must follow this. You have to come out of her, my people. He's talking about not just the system that we're living in, but the oppressive yoke of modern religion, including Christianity. And we can see this with the different English translations of Scripture. Look at the first Scripture that ever came out. Tyndale essentially started a fire, and that fire was able to be continued by guys like Miles Coverdale and John Calvin, who were able to create not only the Great Bible, but also the Geneva Bible. Why did King James feel the need to write his own Scripture? Why did he feel the need to retain the vulgar language in the KJV? And why did so many others thereafter feel the need to create their own version of the Bible, including Benjamin Blaney, who introduced the name Jesus to us for the first time in 1789? Yahusha says, not one jot, not one tittle shall be removed, added, or taken away from the text. And yet this is all they've done to the Scriptures since it's been put into English. Add to, take away, cut this out, cut that out, add this in. It's all completely corrupt. And you want to say that Scripture cannot be edited. And that is just absolutely ridiculous. I think the Creator likes to give us a challenge. He doesn't like to just give us a complete step-by-step tutorial. If you do A and B and C, you'll do D. There you go. He wants you to use your brain. He wants you to use discernment. He wants you to pray about it. He wants you to meditate on these topics and weigh them out for yourself, and not just vomit out what you were told or taught to vomit out. Which is why I really like the Sefer Scriptures so much, because they've done what they can do to restore the text to its most pure form. And it reads just like the Geneva does. I reference the Geneva with the Sefer all the time, and they're read almost identical. It's just that the Sefer uses the correct sacred names, which I really like to read and say in my own mind. and I'm sure you guys do too. If you guys have any more questions, put it in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Shalom.